All right, I think we're all set now. So hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Jim R., and today we have Toni W. on the show. How are you doing, Toni?
Doing real good today.
All right, I'm glad to hear that. So we were just talking that you're from Indiana, right?
Yes.
All right, and you were born and raised in the same town that you live right now today.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about growing up there.
Well, I was born in the in the 50s, so I'm up there a bit. I had really a wonderful childhood. I grew up upper middle class. My father was a surgeon. My mother was a nurse. I had 3 older siblings. My childhood was great, with the exception of sexual abuse. This started when I was 8 and continued until I was 13. And I just sort of shoved that all back. Never thought about it, never discussed it with anyone. That did not come out until I started therapy in my late 20s.
Who was the abuser?
It was a family member.
Was it a close family, like lived in the same house as you?
No, actually an older sibling.
Okay. So do you see that affecting your childhood a lot?
Not really my childhood, because I just suppressed it so much, but I think it affected my self-esteem a lot. I think it was primarily the reason for a lot of my depression and my diagnosis of borderline personality disorder.
So you think a lot of that, or most of it, or maybe all of it, developed as a result of the sexual abuse?
Yes.
And what was the reason it stopped? Did anything happen in particular, or?
He went off to college.
Okay, so that's the only reason it stopped, was he left.
Right.
So what was it like being young in school when all that was going on? Did you ever tell any other children, or was there anything in particular that was happening?
I didn't speak about it until I started therapy in my late 20s to my therapist.
Right.
I didn't to anyone. I was too embarrassed. And to be honest, I only thought about it when it was happening at the time. I just suppressed it. I just squashed it down. But my self-esteem was really struggling at the time because I felt victimized. My question that always went through my head was, why me? Why me? Why me?
Do you remember a reason for you not telling anybody?
I was too embarrassed. I was, it was catastrophic when it was happening. And I just, this was back in the, in the early 60s. And it was something that was never discussed, never brought up. And I thought I was the only one in the world going through it. I didn't think anybody would understand. I didn't feel like anybody was going to protect me. So I never brought it up.
So you said it affected your self-esteem. How did you get along with other children growing up?
I had 3 older brothers, and to be honest, I never was I was close to one of them in particular. Actually, I felt closer to him than I did the others. They were off in their own little world. All 3 of them had their own group of friends, and we just were not that close growing up. I had my friends, they had their friends, they did their thing, and I did mine. We just weren't a real tight-knit family growing up.
How was your social life growing up in school and with friends?
Good. I always had about 2 or 3 really close friends growing up.
So
in fact, I'm this day.
You said you're still friends with them till this day? Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's an amazing. It's hard to find friends that are worth keeping around that long.
Yeah.
At least in my world. I guess that might sound pessimistic, but unfortunately for me, I guess that's kind of the way I live.
Uh-huh.
But I do have a few friends that I consider lifetime friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
so have that support nowadays.
Yeah, especially for an addict to have any type of support system is great.
Right. And they all know my story. They all know what I've been through.
Yeah. So what age were you the first time you picked up any type of drug or alcohol?
I was about 16. I started drinking whiskey and Coke, cherry vodka and Coke, Boone's Farm. That was the big drink back then, was the Boone's Farm. It
Yeah.
had just, and it was a weekend thing. I drank on the weekends with a guy that I was kind of seeing, and then one of my friends who I still associate with on Facebook, and her boyfriend. We would go to the drive-in theater and just drink, drink at the drive-in. So, but that's what I started out with, was alcohol.
It was alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was the 60s. So were there any types of things like obviously marijuana? And
Yeah.
when I think 60s, I kind of think acid and the whole psychedelic scene.
Yep, that was the second thing I tried, was an acid called Orange Sunshine.
Orange Sunshine.
Yeah, and it was bad, and that was awful. I took a half of what's called a 4-way hit, and I got violently ill. The trip was awful. I didn't touch acid since. This was when I was a sophomore in high school, and I swore up and down I would never do it again. And I have not done hallucinogen since. It was horrible. So I learned my lesson on that one.
That's good.
But I did smoke quite a bit of pot. Now back then it wasn't any good. It was what we call dirt weed, Mexican.
Well, yeah, we have that nowadays also.
Yeah, it was bad. And then after I graduated high school, I started, my father would get these samples of barbiturates and stimulants from the drug reps. Are you there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. He would get,
sorry, I clicked off accidentally.
okay. He would get samples of all these different barbiturates, sedatives, sleeping pills, and amphetamines from the drug reps. Back in the 60s, before this stuff was really monitored and scheduled, they'd come in boxes with strips and strips. And when I got to college, I started basically stealing these and taking them back to college, abusing the amphetamines to study for college, pretty much just on weekends. It was more of a recreational thing for me, but it was a massive amount of pills that I was stealing out of the cupboard. He didn't keep it locked up or anything, and don't think he ever really knew that I was taking all this stuff.
Do you remember exactly what type of pills you were taking?
Yeah, can I go ahead and name them?
Yeah, that's fine. Of course.
Okay. Seconal, Tuinol, Dembutol, Quaaludes, Librium, Valium, were the downers. Now, back in the day, you could get prescriptions of the barbiturates. Nowadays, you cannot. You can only get that administered in the hospital. But anyway, the stimulants were Preludin, Tenuate Dospan, Dexedrine, and Black Beauties, which is biphetamine. And then there was Tylenol number 3. He didn't have hydrocodone, but he had Tylenol number 3 and Darvon. Darvon's been taken off the market. So that's about 12 different narcotics that I was taking back to college with me.
Truth is, I think I only recognize the Valium and the Quaalude. So you're worried about naming them. I think a lot of our audience may not even recognize some of those.
Yeah.
But yeah. So at what age were you exactly? Again, I think I missed it when you were stealing these.
This started when I was about 19, 20, and I went to Ball State. I'd come home on the weekends, restock, I'd re-up. Everybody knows what re-upping is. I'd
Yeah.
re-up, I go back to college. And I didn't take these medications. Well, I should say just dope. I only did this on weekends all through college. Just as well, during the week, I'd take some of the stimulants so I could stay up and study for finals. And then, of course, I would take the barbiturates to help me come down from the stimulants. And that got to be kind of a roller coaster thing. But I never felt that I was addicted to anything. This was all recreational use, because when I eventually quit taking everything, when I started working, I never went through any kind of withdrawal or craving or anything. So it was the start of something, but I can't say I was addictively using, just recreational at this point. Because when I started working as an RN, I quit everything.
How were your grades and things like that in high school? How was your education side of your life going?
A's, B's, and C's, pretty much just a B average.
Okay. So you did pretty well.
Yes. Yeah, I did okay in high school, and I was pretty much a B average in college too.
Okay. And you went there, I guess, is there a major in nursing? I forget. I don't know how that works in college.
Yeah, I have a Bachelor of Science degree in biology, and
Okay,
also
cool.
nursing.
Cool. That's
Yeah.
great. So after you get out of college, your first job, was that nursing right out of college?
Yes, yeah, I worked at Ball State for 2 years.
So you went from partying all the time to then you just quit cold turkey with no withdrawals?
No, not from the medications, but I was drinking a couple drinks a night. When I worked second shift, and I would drink 2 big screwdrivers when I got off work, and I did this every night.
So you went off the drugs and started with the booze, basically.
Yeah.
Was there a reason you started drinking?
Just to relax and help me get to sleep at night.
And that was it from the very start? You think it was just basically for that reason only?
Yeah. I felt like I had to have some kind of substance to help me sleep. I do have insomnia, and I've always depended on something to help me get to sleep.
Even when you were very young, were you given things?
No, not until I was but around 20.
Okay. So how was your life then as a nurse?
It was good. I was very successful. I quickly worked my way up to charge nurse, which was pretty much my I don't know, my job description all through my nursing career. I was always in charge. And for a couple of years, I was actually an assistant unit manager at St. John's, which is a hospital here in town. So I had a pretty good career, of it. Never got into any trouble at work, never used, never went in to work high or anything. My addiction did not really kick in until I finally retired. And I did retire early on disability.
So I guess you were what we call a functioning addict.
Yes. Well, yeah, I pretty much quit all substances except for some alcohol. I would drink when I got off work. And then in 2001, I applied for disability because of depression and some major back problems. I was granted disability, and because I didn't work, I worked just for a year after 95 when I left the hospital. And that's when my addiction really took off, was in 95.
I've been asking you about different relationships and aspects of your life. How have friendships been throughout your life? I know you said you have three best friends, but I mean, usually people have a different change of friends when they go to college. You might make new ones at work and things like that. How are
Yeah.
overall, as you got older, besides those three friends, how are your personal relationships with people?
Well, when I was using, they would end badly. Um, I would snap on people real easy. A lot of relationships that were very superficial, and I'd snap on people real easy and just be done with them.
Give me an example of what do you mean by snapping on someone?
Well, if I felt that they did something wrong to me, they said something behind my back, I would just come unglued and just write them off, tell them off, and be done with them. That happened about 3 or 4 times over about a 10-year period with people I thought had my back and they did not. I overreacted to what people said about me, because of my addiction. I'd snap real easy when I was high. I don't know. I can't explain why I did that, but the drugs just made me have crazy at times.
So it's hard maintaining other personal relationships.
And that's also part of being a borderline too, is maintaining healthy relationships.
Yeah, I think I've read that because I actually did some research on it myself because I thought that I might have it. I thought the doctors were misdiagnosing me, but obviously I had to trust them. I'm on a good set of medications now that seem to be working for me. I was diagnosed bipolar.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah.
So I know what it feels like to be up and down kind of in your mental state, that you lose a lot of friends. I've lost a lot of friends.
Yeah. 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 Well, I only have 2 brothers left out of family of 6. And, due to death, my parents are dead, and I lost a brother in a plane wreck, and they pretty much are done with me. I burnt my bridges with them, and so I have no blood relatives except my son. My son's been with me the whole time. So
What'd you do to burn those bridges? What happened?
I kept relapsing and going through money. Um, I was arrested, and sent to prison for 16 months. And my 2 brothers they'd had enough, because I was probably in treatment. I was in treatment centers, EOP, IOP, different programs about 12 times.
What did you actually, when you went to jail for 16 months, what was your crime?
Well, reckless homicide. My best friend overdosed and died in my house, and they blamed me for it. I went to court and I took a plea agreement because I had 2 level 5s and a level 6, reckless homicide, felony intimidation, and dealing, which I've never dealt in my life. But they got me on a dealing charge because I did admit purchasing the drugs. Well, she died of what they said was an overdose on meth, which meth was never one of my drugs of choice. Why I bought it, I don't know. But we smoked it, and 8 hours later, she was still awake, still alive. She laid down at 7:30 in the morning, and then by 10:30, she was dead. When I discovered her, I did CPR on her. I called 911, did everything I could do to save her, because I know CPR being a nurse, and that wasn't good enough. So I was found guilty of reckless homicide. And the prosecution they wanted to enhance the charges to include a level of murder, which would have landed me in prison until I died. So the plea agreement was a 2-year cap, 2 years DOC, 2 years probation. So I took the plea because I was scared I would be sentenced by a jury for 30, 40, 50 years.
That
Then
must have been very scary for you.
it was very traumatic. I developed PTSD because of it. And now I'm facing a $300,000 civil suit for wrongful death.
How long ago did all this happen?
My best friend died in 2017.
So this was
And
recent.
I'm sorry.
So this was pretty recent.
Yeah. And then I was arrested and sent to prison in 2019.
So you're recently out?
Yeah, I was released in August of 20.
Okay, so you've been out a few years.
Yeah.
So what was it like, if you don't mind me asking, being in jail?
Well, I liked jail better than I did prison, to be honest. I wasn't in jail that long before I got sent to prison. But being in prison was horrible. I have never been treated so badly in my life.
What kind of stuff would happen?
The guards would just, they were demeaning. They would belittle you. They'd yell at you if you looked at them the wrong way. They'd have shakedowns. They would tear all your stuff out of your locker, throw it on your bed. They'd strip your bed, and they just no respect. They just disrespected you, and you're a ward of the state. The state basically owned you, and they were just awful. I just, being older, I guess I thought maybe I'd be treated with a little more respect. I wasn't. But I just basically didn't want to die in prison, so that's why I took the plea agreement.
Yeah, I would have done the same exact thing.
Yeah, so yeah, I can, summarizing, I can say drugs have pretty much ruined my life because I'm going to have this civil suit. The judgment's going to be hanging over my head the rest of my life. And I'm a felon. I've lost certain rights. It's hard for me to find a place to live.
What type of rights have you lost?
Well, finding a place to live for one thing. I'm still on 3/4. I'm in a 3/4 way house.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, it's the owner of the program that I graduated from has bought up rental properties, and he's leasing them to the graduates of the program. And I'm in one of those. So we're still subject to urine screens, and we're still expected to go to meetings.
So it's kind of like a sober house.
Exactly. Yeah, that's basically what it is. Yeah.
Do you find that to be a good thing for you?
Yes, it's something that I'm gonna be staying here for a while, only because it's affordable. Because I'm on limited income.
Yeah.
Security's all I get. So yeah, I'll be here a while.
Is it comfortable living there?
Yeah. Just a little tiny little house I'm renting with another graduate, and it's okay. I don't mind it at all. I've been kind of spoiled in the past. I've always had, extra money, and I've had a nice house with swimming pools, and I've learned to give that up. I've learned that that's not the important thing in life anymore. So I've learned to deal with a lot less, or, I don't need all that stuff anymore.
Yeah, I mean, to be content in life is a nice thing.
Yeah.
So you said your drug use took off once you retired. Tell us,
Yeah.
Was there anything that you thought might have kicked that off? Or like you said, it was just because you were trying to go to sleep? I mean, obviously it had to be more than that.
in 95, I had, my husband and I were getting divorced, so I moved in with my mother, and I had a terrible kidney infection, a lot of back pain. My mom gave me two 7.5 Lortabs, and I can actually pinpoint those as the beginning of my downfall. I'd
What are
love
Lord's tabs?
hydrocodone.
Okay.
Okay, and she gave me two of those, and from that day forward, I was off and running. I loved the way they made me feel. They gave me energy, and I just was started eating pain pills from that day forward. I was stealing them off of her. I was going out, finding people that had them for sale. I was buying them up. I was up to I got myself up to eating, see, how many was I taking a day? About 40 to 50 a day.
40 to 50?
Oh, yeah, easy.
Wow.
And then I switched over to OxyContin, and I was eating probably about 10 80s a day. And then I discovered someone taught me how to cook them down and start shooting them. That was a huge mistake, because once I started banging dope, it was on. And then my mother started getting fentanyl patches with the gel in them, not the cloth ones that they have now, but just pure, straight up fentanyl gel. I was taking the gel, putting it in a little cup, little like a petri dish, mixing it with a little water, and shooting that. I started out, I could make a 25 microgram patch last me for 3 days. Within 6 months of that, this is going to blow your mind, I was up to doing 300 micrograms per shot, and I was doing this 4 times a day. So that's 1,200 micrograms a day. That's $1,200 a day, because each 100 microgram patch was $100.
Where'd you get all the money from?
I had a trust fund at the time, which is now gone because I went through it just lickety split.
Wow, it's amazing how quickly you can go through money. I mean, that's a huge, huge habit.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do everything to excess, and it's amazing that I just didn't overdose.
Yeah, I mean, because you're trying to, I guess you say, feel like you made it safer with fentanyl patches versus the other stuff.
Yeah.
How did you know what dose to give you without killing yourself? Because so many people are dying from fentanyl. Even it's not like just the ones that buy something laced with fentanyl. People who are knowingly taking fentanyl misdose all the time and kill themselves.
Well, I was using fentanyl before the car fentanyl. The powdered fentanyl had hit the streets. This was back in, let's see, I finally did overdose in 2014, and because it was a suicide attempt, and I almost got it done. I blacked out. I went driving around looking for more fentanyl. Apparently I found some more. I don't remember. I got pulled over by the police, and he took me straight to the hospital, where I proceeded to OD, and wound up in ICU for 7 days on a ventilator, and woke up, and I had open wounds from the abscesses. I had 2 of them. They had suction on them. After the hospital, I went to a nursing home for 6 weeks because of the wounds, and that got me off the opiates.
Let me ask you this: where did you find people to buy it illegally?
I had an acquaintance. I'm not calling her a friend. Had an acquaintance that was just getting them somewhere. I don't know. I was paying her $1,200 a day for a while. She was getting me 12 patches a day.
And what are fentanyl patches meant for? Is that meant for pain patients?
Yes, yeah, they were back then. I mean, they were given out more freely than they are now. They were primarily used for hospice patients, for pain. But 100 patch is still an awful lot. Now, if I would do just 100 patch now, it overdosed me. 100 would kill someone, and I was doing 1,200 of that a day. And then it got to the point where I wasn't even getting high off of that. It was something I had to do to keep the withdrawal at bay. But the abscesses I got, the cotton fever, the abscesses were horrendous. Because I didn't care. I wasn't even cleaning my rigs out. I just was using one rig, the same rig over and over again.
You're talking about your needle?
Yeah. Got Hep C too during all this, and I've since been cured. I qualified for the treatment, so I've been cured off of that. It's been a battle. It's been a struggle. Oh, and also during this time, I was also abusing Xanax, taking a lot, taking about 10 to 12 a day.
Wow, and you were mixing that with the fentanyl?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, I used to take Xanax and Klonopin with like Oxycontin and stuff, or Percocets, but I'm lucky that I never got up to the level of fentanyl. I know that stuff like I said before, it's a killer. It's a killer.
Yeah, it is nowadays. Fentanyl is 1,000 times stronger than regular fentanyl. It's crazy. So I guess in a way I was blessed that I got my fentanyl addiction done and over with before this new stuff hit the streets. Because I'd be dead.
So at what point did you, I'm sorry, you go first.
No, I forgot what I was going to say.
I was say, at what point in your life did you know that you had a problem, where you sat there and consciously said, wow, I am a drug addict. I need help?
In 2001, when I was just doing pills, when I was up to about 60 a day, I knew I had a problem. I was married, married at the time to my second husband. And it was so hard. I called my mom over, and my husband was there. And of course, my child was there, but he was only 4. And I had to admit to them that I had a problem and I needed treatment. So I went into the Anderson Center, which is just really not a good place to go. I detoxed there for 5 days. And then I went to Terror Treatment Center in Franklin for 3 months. Well, I got out and I didn't stay clean very long. I was back at it within 3 months.
And how long were you in active addiction again before you went to treatment? Or did you ever go back to treatment?
Yes, I went back again. I went to the Anderson Center, was inpatient there for about 5 or 6 days, and then I did their IOP. And I think that's the time I was coming into IOP high. Before I had to do a urine screen, I admitted to them that I was using. I couldn't stay clean for more than about 3 months at a time.
So what is your current sobriety date? When was the last time you used?
April 13th of 19. I've been clean. It'll be 3 years this April 13th.
Going back just a moment, What was your IOP like? I never did that because when I got released from rehab, it was the middle of COVID, so everything was shut down. But
Uh-huh.
what was your experience here? Do you think that helped you a lot?
It did initially, but I'm one of those that would get real complacent. I got really bored. I got complacent in my recovery. And I had this one, I can't really call her a friend, but yeah, she was my dealer. I kept going back to her, thinking that I had the strength to stay away from the pills, because that's what she primarily dealt in, was pills. I kept going back to her after I would get clean, and within 2 or 3 months I was back to taking pills again. um, this time around, uh, I knew I could not go back and see her again, ever. Never. I had to eliminate her among other people. But being in prison, her mother died. She got kicked out of the house she was living in. It was her mom's, and I have no idea where she is. I don't have her phone number. While I was in prison, my condo got broken into, got trashed, got stuff stolen. My car got stolen. My phone got stolen. And the police uh, closed up the case, and they will not reopen it. So I lost everything. So yeah, you could say I really hit my rock bottom. Why the police wouldn't open the case? They figured, well, she's a prisoner, she's a convict, she ain't worth it. That's what the police around here are terrible. They are, they're dirty. They're bad. I'm not saying all cops are bad, because the one that stopped me and took me into the hospital in 14 saved my life. There are good ones out there, and I'm not saying all of them are bad, but there's some dirty cops in this town. Anyway, I'm not here to bash the police.
No, it's part of your story. Whatever you need to say, you say it.
Yeah.
We've all got part of our story. And like you said, there are plenty of good cops, but there's also plenty of bad cops. That's just life. You know what I
Right.
mean? Nobody's perfect. Anybody, doesn't matter what you do for a living.
Right. Exactly.
So what's life like for you nowadays?
Much better. I was able to buy another car. I have a roof over my head. I got food in the fridge. I'm able to pay most of my bills. I got a little money in the bank, and by God's grace, and one day at a time, I'm still clean and sober. I'm grateful for what I have, and I'm trying to live in the moment instead of regretting the past and future tripping about tomorrow. I just try to do what I can do for the day.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I have sponsored people in the past. I don't have a good track record, because it seems like they either move out of halfway house, or that's most of the cases. They've just quit the program and moved out. I still want to sponsor people. I've done my leads a couple times. In fact, I think the program owner is wanting me to do another lead, because they've got a whole new group of people in the program.
You mean lead the group session?
Just give a lead. Give my lead, like what I'm kind of doing now in front of everybody.
I've never heard that term. You mean telling your story?
Yeah.
I've never heard that term before. Give them my lead. No, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's called giving a lead. It's where you have so much sobriety, and you go in and you just tell your story to the people to give them a little experience, strength, and hope. Yeah.
Yeah, no, when we do meetings, we just call them speaker meetings.
Well, basically, yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay, I never heard that before.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of leading. That's good. That's one thing that I think we should realize as addicts, is that giving back really helps keep us sober.
Exactly. Yeah. That's one of the big three in recovery, is giving back what was so freely given to us. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad to hear you're doing well. My last question for you is, do you have any advice for people who might be listening that are still stuck in active addiction?
That there is hope and recovery is possible. Don't ever give up. Keep trying, keep trying. I was in active addiction for almost 25 years and I finally got it. Do not let that deter you. Life's beautiful. Life's so much better now that I'm clean, and I've been clean for almost 3 years. Reach out, get help. There's recovery places everywhere. Just get help before it's too late.
That's great. That is absolutely great. I think you did fantastic today.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, so I think it's a good place to end it. So for everybody listening, if you liked what you heard, go down below and subscribe. Also give us a like. As far as social media, we're on Facebook. We have a group and a page. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, a couple other platforms. Go to our Facebook group. Under the events tab, you will find some Zoom meetings and the schedule for that, which I think you guys should try and attend. It's a daily thing we do. And until next time, that's all we have for today.
Thank you.